Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah.
Vanchakalpurusha Kripasinave Vachapatitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Gaur Bhaktavrinda. So now the chanting becomes even sweeter because we're coming closer to Janmashtami and Sri Vyasa Puja. And we can really already feel the effulgence of Janmashtami coming into our hearts, into our lives. And as we're doing all our activities, all our services, the garland makers, those who are meticulously cleaning the temple, worshiping the deities, going out for Sankirtan, cooking, going out and meeting people to bring in Lakshmi to build the Krishna conscious movement. All these devotees are doing Krishna's work in this world under the protection of the divine energy. And such devotees, and I'm talking about you, are those who are under the protection of Krishna's internal potency. And so now we can chant the holy name with a great feeling, the feeling of determination, and making a sankalpa to surrender completely to Krishna, sweet surrender. And remembering that in just a few days, he'll be making his avirbhav here in this world. And of course, Krishna is always appearing in the hearts and on the tongues of those who are oriented towards seva. Priti seva. They love to do service to Krishna. They're always connected. So let's lean into our japa today and pray to Krishna that we can become more and more inspired by this Janmashtami festival that's upon us now. And before we start, I'm going to read one section from Srila Prabhupada's teachings on the chanting of Hare Krishna. This is from a letter to Terry and Associates, March 22nd, 1968. Let's hear what Prabhupada wrote to Terry and Associates. That's Terry. I am happy to hear that you continue to chant despite so many doubts and skepticism. That is the process. Even there may be doubts and skepticism. If one continues the chanting process, the doubts will all disappear and real knowledge will be revealed by the grace of Krishna. There is the example given of the jaundiced patient. He is suffering from disease, and when given sugar candy, which is the cure, he finds it very bitter and distasteful. But that does not mean the sugar candy is not very sweet and delicious. It is simply due to his diseased condition that it seems bitter. In order to be cured from his disease, he must take the medicine of sugar candy, despite the apparently bitter taste, and as he becomes cured, the real sweet taste of the candy is gradually revealed. Similarly, we are diseased, and only if we take this chanting process may we be cured. Maya may put so many doubts and worthless arguments into our minds, but if we continue the chanting, the curing process will go on. Never mind the doubts, and gradually we will get a taste of that sweet nectar of Krishna Nam Sankirtan. And now we'll begin with chanting the Panchatattva Mahamantra. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Rama Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. So from the last purport, we heard that if someone is afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, then he or she can't taste the sweetness of the holy name. So Haridas Thakur says the antidote to this is, along with the chanting, one should have a regular supply of sambandha jnana, of hearing about the potency of the holy name and remembering our position. Noticed in the material world, everyone's trying to, those who are blinded by ignorance are as enthusiastic to convince people about the material way of life and how good it is and how you should keep trying, as devotees are convincing people that they should give it up. And if we don't hear from the acharyas like Srila Prabhupada and the words of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita every day, then it's inevitable that somehow or other we're going to hear about from the optimistic materialists who say just try a little harder. Just like Jarasandha when he came and he was totally defeated by Krishna and Balaram, and his armies were slaughtered, rivers of blood flowing, every one of them annihilated. When he walked away, his ministers told him it was a fluke, so just try again. So the same thing happens from the lips of materialists. So we have to continually hear. And let's hear more from Srila Prabhupada's instructions about chanting the holy name. And this one is really long, so I'm going to divide it into a couple of parts. It's from the Nectar Devotion. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna. Actually, it's from the Nectar of Instruction, rather. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. Purport. The holy name of Krishna, holy name of Lord Krishna, his quality, pastimes, and so forth, are all the nature of absolute truth, beauty, and bliss. Naturally, they are very sweet, like sugar candy, which appeals to everyone. Nescience, however, is compared to the disease called jaundice, which is caused by bilious secretions. Attacked by jaundice, the tongue of a diseased person cannot palatably relish sugar candy. Rather, a person with jaundice considers something sweet to taste very, very bitter. Avidya, ignorance, similarly perverts the ability to relish the transcendently palatable name, quality, form, and pastimes of Krishna. Despite this disease, if one with great care and attention takes to Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name and hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes, his ignorance will be destroyed and his tongue enabled to taste the sweetness of the transcendental nature of Krishna and his paraphernalia. Such a recovery of spiritual health is possible only by the regular cultivation of Krishna consciousness. When a man in the material world takes more interest in the materialistic way of life than in Krishna consciousness, he is considered to be in a diseased condition. The normal condition is to remain an eternal servant of the Lord. Jivara Sarupoi Krishnara Nityadas. This healthy condition is lost when the living entity forgets Krishna due to his being attracted by the external features of Krishna's Maya energy. This world of Maya is called Durashraya, which means false or bad shelter. One who puts his faith in Durashraya becomes a candidate for hoping against hope. In the material world, everyone is trying to become happy, and although their material attempts are baffled in every way, due to their nations, they cannot understand their mistakes. People try to rectify one mistake by making another mistake. This is the way of the struggle for existence in the material world. If one in this condition is advised to take to Krishna consciousness and be happy, he does not accept such instructions. And now we'll just take a few reflections. Anything that you heard so far or realization from your japa that you'd like to share.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Shanat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj, I had a reflection and a question. So, I really like the point from the purport you mentioned about determination and a regular cultivation of Krishna consciousness. And I was reminded of a person named David Goggins, who tried to get into Navy SEALs, but he was rejected because he was overweight. And within 3 months, he lost 106 pounds something, and he got recruited. So I was thinking if at all we had the same determination and invest that in our devotional service, we could have gone miles ahead in our practice and our attachment to the holy name. And the question I had was, Lord Ram says in Ramayana that whoever comes to me and says just once that I'm yours, I take full responsibility for him and for the rest of his life. And at the same time, with this on one hand, and on the other hand, in Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto, we have descriptions of what kind of tribulations the child goes through inside the womb. And he literally prays to the Lord, to Krishna, that I'm going to surrender. So it looks like he surrenders inside the womb. Then how is it that the moment he comes out of the womb, he just forgets everything and starts enjoying the material world?
Kapila Dev explains the way that someone comes out of the womb and the senses which are internalized while one's in that position as a fetus then become externalized. The senses are embedded in their objects. And then one becomes impelled towards the external world. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his song describes how I saw the face of my mother smiling at me, I saw my father. And then there's this ocean of Maya waiting for me and become overwhelmed. The prayers of someone who is saying, I want to surrender, are mentioned also in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Forced Material Enjoyment. Sometimes somebody comes to the point of saying, God, I want to surrender to you in a dangerous position, but later on, he or she then goes back into the material position and wavers back and forth. But when one gets the mercy of a Vaishnav and is able to take shelter, then the Lord gives special protection. And those devotees who come to Krishna, and Krishna gives them the association of Vaishnavas, just like we were talking about the importance of hearing Sambandha Gyan. It's vital that one have Vaishnava association. It's one of the 5 most important aspects of devotional service. Such a person who puts him or herself under the Vaishnavas and stays in service, then is always protected by the Lord. And in that verse, actually, that Lord Ramachandra utters, he said, I will protect him from fear. He'll never fear again. He'll become abhayam by my mercy. Radha Venkat Prabhu said, if I can know my real position, the rest is easy. The main thing is keep the main thing the main thing. Any other reflections on what we read or the japa?
Guru Maharaj, I just wanted to ask one more question based on Rohit's comment. We are always taught that bhakti is a slow process. I remember you telling us it's about 40 years to getting to where you want to go if you're steady and you stay on it. And I was thinking that when we approach bhakti, we approach it with a tatyanukampam attitude, that we be patient, and despite all issues, we survive. But is there also another angle from which you look at it the way, like he's saying, with great focus and determination, I can achieve a lot in a short period of time?
You should consider that you've already achieved a lot in a short period of time. Labvam sudurlavam idam bahusambhavante manushya martadam anityam api hadira. That if you've come to the human form of body, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins this teaching to Sanatana Goswami by saying how rare it is for somebody to be a devotee. He says, because out of all human beings, manushyanam sahasreshu kashid yatati siddhaye, there are very few that attain get even an interest in spiritual life. And out of those who are interested in spiritual life, there are very few that actually know who Krishna is. And then out of those, very few who become pure devotees. It's mentioned also by Rupa Goswami when he talks about the various gradations of devotees as well. So it's a rare position to be in association with devotees. And we should consider ourselves fortunate at every step. And we should also be hankering for more. So Rupa Goswami says that as soon as you take to the process of devotional service, even the neophyte is freed from distress. It begins a life of auspiciousness and is put into transcendental pleasure. So even at the very first step of devotional service, one's in a rarefied condition. But then it's unlimited. So one has 2 visions. One is that I feel very fortunate that I am where I am right now, but at the same time, I should be hankering that please let me advance and really become purified. Even the great souls, Raghunath Das Goswami is writing in his book about purifying the mind that, I see my mind is so devious. It just wants fame, and he's refining more and more and more. So the more somebody advances, Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami, the more he or she feels that I'm not very advanced at all. And that's quite natural in any discipline, but especially devotional service, because as the Brihad Bhagavatamrita says, dainya, or utter humility, is almost synonymous with prema. And the more you're approaching prema and becoming more and more attached to Krishna, the more you're feeling utter humility. So it's almost a contradictory situation. We'll just take one more and then we'll go back to Japa, because we see the appearance of Nitai Kripa Prabhu, who's written in this reflection, during the Japa, I was appreciating how it's easier to taste the sweetness of chanting when in association of the pure devotees, Tulsi and the deities. Yes, and this is something that Prabhupada mentions, that one should chant before a Tulsi plant. There's a special power of being next to Tulsi. And so the point is that we should organize our japa. Don't do it haphazardly. Just pick up bead bag, walk out the door, drive down the street, one finger on the steering wheel, the other one the japa bag, listening to the radio, having a snack with the other hand. No, there's a point is to put oneself in a situation where your environment is favorable, so you're not disturbed and you can be fully concentrated. And this is one of the acts of devotion, and that is to put everything else out of the way for now. And how do you like it if you're talking to somebody or they're talking to you and they're doing something else at the same time, like looking at their phone? Personally, it drives me nuts. Everybody knows, whoever. They look at their phone and they go, okay, I'll talk to you another time. So Krishna may do that also if we're doing something else at the same time. I'll talk to you later. You come back when you're serious, sir, madam. So better if we preemptively put ourselves in a situation where we're serious in front of the pure devotee, Tulsi, and the association devotees. That's why we have this Japa circle. Don't you think it's better? It makes it more, one's mind more accountable. It's like, oh, all the devotees are here. I better pay attention. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Radha Kripa Prabhu. And thank you, Nitai Kripa Prabhu. Okay, so let's do some more japa, remembering the rarity of the human form of life and that we've come to this position after millions and millions of lives in different species, and now we have the opportunity to use the human tongue to utter the names of Krishna, very intimate names. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Let's drink in a little bit more from Prabhupada's instructions on chanting the holy name. This Krishna consciousness movement is being spread all over the world just to remedy this gross ignorance. People in general are misled by blind leaders. The leaders of human society, the politicians, philosophers, and scientists, are blind because they are not Krishna conscious. According to Bhagavad Gita, because they are bereft of all factual knowledge due to their atheistic way of life, they are actually sinful rascals and are the lowest among men. Namam duskritunu muda prapadyante naradhama maya ya pratagyana asuram bhavam ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Such people never surrender to Krishna, and they oppose the endeavor of those who wish to take Krishna's shelter. When such atheists become leaders of society, the entire atmosphere is surcharged with nescience. In such a condition, people do not become very enthusiastic to receive this Krishna consciousness movement, just as a diseased person suffering from jaundice does not relish the taste of sugar candy. However, one must know that for jaundice, sugar candy is the only specific medicine. Similarly, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the only remedy for setting the world aright. Although Krishna consciousness may not be very palatable for a diseased person, Srila Rupa Goswami nevertheless advises that if one wants to be cured of the material disease, he must take to it with great care and attention. One begins his treatment by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra because by chanting this holy name of the Lord, a person in the material condition will be relieved from all misconceptions, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Avidya, a misconception about one's spiritual identity, provides the foundation for ahankar, or false ego within the heart. So you'll notice here that Krishna consciousness, the chanting of Hare Krishna is a remedy. And also, Prabhupada continues mentioning this metaphor by saying it's medicine. And you have to take the treatment, etc. So there's two sides. One is that the doctor gives the prescription and tells about the remedy. And the second is that the patient actually has to take it. And so going back to your question, Bhakti Rohit, that there's a way in which we can't misconstrue. Sometimes we can take a statement Krishna makes that, you say, one time you say, I surrender unto you. Then, okay, do some magic on me and make me do this. We're not dead stones, and we're also responsible for whatever situation we're in. Krishna says in the Gita, it's not me, it's your interaction with the material nature. And if there's medicine, it means there's also a person who's taking the medicine. So we also have to take responsibility that important point is that there's nothing out of place in the way that Krishna gives us the medicine and also arranges for us to be in certain circumstances. That's a very wordy way of saying that Krishna is the perfect moral agent. And so implicit sometimes in my thoughts about, or statements, someone's statements about, why am I in this material world in the first place? There's a psychological point at which we think like, how could I be here? I didn't do anything. Or, why doesn't God fix it all? Why does he make me suffer? But there's a point at which I have to take responsibility. I'm suffering due to turning the wrong direction, and I have the power to turn around. That's why we have sadhana. And that's why we even talk about determination, because we can develop determination step by step by our own application of the process, because we're not dead stones. So Bharat Maharaj, he was very determined, but he got distracted. And the acharyas don't say it was Krishna's fault. He distracted him somehow with the deer. They put it on Bharat, and they say he foolishly became sentimental about the deer. So he was very advanced, but he became distracted. Why? It was his own fault, not Krishna's fault. Krishna's giving a full shelter to living entities when they want to take it. My problem is that I want to take it. That's one aspect that sometimes gets overlooked, especially when we see some statement by Krishna, he's extending himself, and they say, okay, go ahead, just take me back to Godhead. But even Ajamil, who got liberated by chanting the holy name one time, took the trouble after the Yamadutas, Vishnudutas left to go to Prayag and to do some extra work before he was picked up and went back to Godhead. That was his own choice, actually. So there's a sense of responsibility that has to be there also when Krishna gives Sarvadharman Parityaja, or his statement by Ramchandra, Kachadeva Prapano, yes, one time Prapano, you surrender unto me, then I save you from fear. So we also have to take it at the same time. So I've run out the clock, and that's good, because we ran out of the clock if anybody checks in on us at the end of our life and said, what were you doing from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the 8th of, what is this month anyway? August 2020. I know that much. We can say, I know where I was. I have an alibi. I was there chanting with the devotees, and we have a videotape of it. So at least we got that. Hare Krishna. We'll see you in about 20 minutes. Not about, exactly 20 minutes, 20 minutes after 8 o'clock. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Mantra Kalpadurvasha, Kripasinave, Vachapatitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Nantakodi Vaishnavini ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Janmashtami ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari Bol.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.